Hey everybody, it's Chris Loud. Today I'm going to share an abstract warm-up painting challenge where I intentionally embrace imperfections and the raw energy presenting itself in this painting. I'll quickly go over the guidelines for the prompt, followed by the demo, and at the end of the video, for those of you who are interested, I'll briefly go into how I prep a painting like this to get it ready to sell. So here are the guidelines for the challenge. You have 15 minutes to paint. Pick a dominant color and its complementary color, and you can also use one neighboring color on the color wheel for each. So for blue you could use green or purple. For orange you could use yellow or red. You can use anything you want for mark making, and the goal is to warm up with a quick abstract painting and leave some of the areas that you find imperfect. What is imperfect? Only you really know what you feel is imperfect in your paintings, but in general, it's leaving areas that are less refined and raw. So for my colors, I chose blue, orange as the complementary color, the neighbor to blue, green, and the neighbor to orange, yellow. So my colors are ultramarine blue. I'm also using a light permanent blue. I'm using lime green, cadmium yellow medium, and then for my orange I'm actually doing a mix of Pyrrole red and the cadmium yellow. So just putting down a base layer right now, and to kind of get this going. I used a couple of color shapers, a large silicone bowl scraper, a bristle fan brush, a palette knife, some homemade stencils, and a charcoal pencil on this. So, you know, as far as my description of what is imperfect earlier, where I said less refined and raw, that might mean messy and unpredictable brushstrokes, or varied texture and thickness of paint, or marks that seem out of place, or maybe inconsistencies within the painting, or just those areas that we really want to touch up, that we're looking at going, I need to paint a little more on that. So those are the areas that I'm talking about as imperfect. So we want to leave some of those. I usually find myself trying to fix areas that aren't blended well, and places where I can see more of the paper or canvas than I want to. Or a lot of times, just really sloppy brush strokes and marks. So I'm just doing a lot of mark making. I took a toothbrush and splattered some white paint down, covering up a lot of my base layer, but also wanting to show have some of those colors show through, especially the orange as my focal point. But I definitely want to have a little of those colors, and then touching it up with making some marks with some charcoal. Then I'll bring in a couple of small stencils that I recently made with a hot glue gun, and just using those with the charcoal pencil. But I think we get so caught up in the details in trying to perfect our paintings and our artwork that sometimes we lose something unique that's right in front of us. And the appeal of imperfections and raw energy in paintings kind of makes them more relatable and authentic. And that expressive raw energy can create such a sense of movement and intensity and individuality, and can sometimes make a painting feel more alive. And sometimes those imperfections are there, but they're more subtle. Someone might look at this warm-up piece and think the imperfections aren't so obvious, or everything I did was, maybe thought that was on purpose. But for me, since I'm painting it, I see all of them, and I'll tell you that I found this to be challenging, leaving them alone, because you see things and you immediately want to just start touching up on it. But then you start realizing that's the whole point of this. Looking, past those imperfections and continue to play. So here I'm using a small brayer to take some titanium white and cover up a little bit and just add a little bit more interest in this piece. And taking the palette knife and scratching into it. So let me know in the comments, if you have any questions about this challenge, how the challenge goes for you, and if, as I always ask, if you have any challenges you'd like me to put on my list for future videos. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you like this, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. And as always, thanks to everyone who supports the channel by liking and commenting on these videos, subscribes to the channel, and those who support the channel with a super thanks donation. I sincerely appreciate you all. So now, kind of flipping around, looking at different orientations, and that one little spot, I had two kind of orange spots in the center there, at the top and the bottom, and really started looking at trying to push one of those back just a little bit, because it felt like those were really competing, having both of those there competing with the focal point. And here's where I'm going to start using another one of the stencils. I've already used the circle stencil and just got some shapes in there. And these were just little trial stencils that I was using with a hot glue gun with to play with. And one of the stencils, I found that once I got enough paint on it, it hardens, and that one, I dropped it and broke it. So, but it's still a nice little stencil, so I continue to use what's left of it. So coming up, I'll show you the final painting, and I'll show you different orientations of that. And then if you want to see what it looks like after I varnished it and put it in a matte, watch after I show you these paintings and these different orientations, and you can see what that looks like. So here are the different orientations, and I really felt like it worked with every orientation that I flip it around to. Okay, so here's the painting. After I'm done with that, I've got it in a white matte. It's an 11 by 14 matte with a 7.5 by 9.5 inch opening. This is an 8 by 10 painting, so obviously I'm losing about 1/4 inch on each side of the painting with this pre-cut matte. So the first thing that I do on an abstract painting is decide what orientation that I want the painting to be in. Once I have decided that, I go ahead and put my signature on the painting. Now, this painting could really work in any orientation. I liked all of them, but I think this was my favorite, so that's the one I decided to go with. Next thing I do is I put on the back of the painting the title of the painting, the date. I just put the year, my name, and then the way that I sign the painting. I'll get a little bit more into the matte here in just a minute. But the next thing that I do, if I have anything on the painting, charcoal, water-soluble, wax pastels, pencils, anything like that, that might smear when it's wet, I will go ahead and spray the painting with a workable fixative. I use this Krylon. It works very well, relatively inexpensive. So this is the one that I use, but I've used others as well, and for the most part they all work about the same, but I really do like the Krylon. So once I do that, I let that sit for at least an hour to make sure that that dries, and I don't have any issues, possible issues with smearing. So let that dry for an hour, and then I just decide on what gloss I'm going to use, whether I'm going to use, excuse me, not gloss, but what varnish I'm going to use, whether that's a gloss or a matte. Now, depending on how you want the painting to look, you can make that decision. For this particular painting, I went ahead and used a gloss varnish. I typically don't use spray varnishes. I've just had some issues getting little drops and things like that on the painting. I have used them in the past. I'm sure I will probably use them at some point again. But right now I like using these more liquid ones where I can brush those on. So for this particular painting, I used a gloss varnish because I wanted the colors to really kind of pop. And when you're using the gloss varnish, a lot of times you can get those colors to look kind of like they're wet, you know, how they have that richness. A lot of times when acrylics dry, they end up with kind of a matte, a little bit more, I guess a little bit dulled color sometimes. So on this particular one, I wanted these bright colors to look pretty vibrant. So I went ahead and used that. Now you can tell if I turn it, it's got that sheen to it. So that's kind of one of the downsides to a gloss, is that there is sometimes a little bit of a glare, but anyway, I'll let you decide what you want to use on those. But getting back to the mat, this is a pre-cut mat that I've ordered. It comes with the mat with the opening, and then it also comes with a backer board, as well as, let me find it here, one of these clear envelopes that you can put those in to protect it. It also looks really nice in there. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and put this one in. But I have 3 sizes of these pre-cut mats that I use. I use this one, which is 11 by 14 for the full size, and like I said, about an 8 by 10 for the opening. It works for an 8 by 10 painting. And then I also have, let's see, I have these that are 5 by 7 opening. So I do some 5 by 7 pieces. And then I also have some large ones for 11 by 14 paintings, and the overall size is 16 by 20 inches. So it's a much larger painting. And I'll put links to all the stuff I'm talking about in the description if you want to check any of these out. But I find these pre-cut mats, they're acid-free, and they just work really well. And it's very easy to finish a painting, prep it, and have it ready to go. And you can see that, you know, with that plastic sleeve that it comes in, it definitely makes it look a lot more professional. But I love looking at some of these pieces, even the 15-minute challenges. Once you put those in a mat, they look different. They kind of come to life, I think, a little bit more. But that's basically what I do for prepping these paper paintings to sell. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments, and I hope this helps. Thanks for watching, and keep on painting.